how do you make sure that HR is closely linked to the business and supports business goals? What are some of the, as a chief people officer, how do you make sure your business partners in particular are aligned to the business?
I mean, for me, it's always been historically, and still is to this day, contracting with those business leaders and their teams around them, in really making sure that you're in the thick of the conversations around the business strategy. And sort of like, where's this business going? And then, sort of you using your consulting capability to go, okay, that's the direction of travel. What does that mean from a people and culture perspective? So bringing in those perspectives from outside, bringing in data and insights, using that consulting capability to play back what you've heard and kind of go, well, look, here's my thoughts on some of the things that we should be focused on, and then co-creating that. Because there's nothing worse than you're in a nice meeting talking about business strategy and you go off with your people team and design something in a vacuum. I'm always like, look, the people and culture strategy is owned by the leader that I support. I'm here to facilitate and help support it, but you own it. And that's where I think it's really important. And then, of course, around all of that, you have to have metrics. Like, you have to kind of go, okay, well, how are we going to know whether we've been successful? And I think that's part of the challenge in our world. It can sometimes be nebulous, and I think we've got to sort of take a step back, and there's so much data available if you've got the right tools to kind of go, well, that's not acceptable anymore. We really have to hold ourselves accountable. And then I do think on this employee experience piece, and there's this huge debate I have with people sometimes about, do we call ourselves a profession that is here in service of the business or not? And I think we get so wrapped up in this intellectual debate. At the end of the day, we exist to support the business, and we're here in service of the business. And I truly believe that. So we have to deliver experiences that the business values. We need to hear their voice. We need to respond and listen to what they're thinking about what we're doing. And, this is the balance piece. And we have to also be, okay, part of what we do in services of this business is hold up the mirror. That's less tangible, but that is about, I'll often say to business leaders, so, tell me about your relationship with your business partner, all these great things. I go, and when did they last challenge you? That's important, that sort of voice of reason, bringing value, challenging the system, challenging the status quo, I think it's got to be part of how we hold ourselves accountable. I'm not quite sure how we measure that, other than just kind of going out and watching that in action, David, and asking the questions and sort of codifying it through that. But I think in the future, that's the kind of thing I think technology will be able to sort of help us understand probably better how we're all performing in that regard.
Where have you seen maybe a Mambu, maybe at Cisco, I guess, where have you seen a really good example of something a program that's really helped write that employee experience that maybe, as you said, has been co-created with employees?
Yeah, I think quite often the listening that we want to do, we do, but we maybe don't listen as pervasively and actually potentially put your employees in the driving seat of the design. And so I do think what I've seen be very successful in the past is kind of go, okay, blank sheet of paper, tell us what you would do, how you would do this to a bunch of random employees, and really try and get to the bottom of what it is they really want. And because quite often people, well, we don't like the reward strategy. Okay, well, what is it? Like, if you could design it, like, how would it be? What would it be? So we're just doing that right now with a team here at Mambu, where, there's issues about our reward strategy, and the conversation I had with the leader about it is like, let's give them a pot of money and let them work out how they're going to distribute that at the end of the year. Like, is that a team thing? Or what are the goals? Like, let's just empower them with that money. We'll say we want to do X, Y, Z from a business perspective. You just work out how the hell you're going to do that. That's fair share to everyone. Well, you can do that if it's a different approach. And it's funny to watch it because we've done it, and the employees are like, well, can you tell us? And it's like, no, we're trying something new here. So I think there's just, and I think, then I felt myself and the team, okay, we'll go and produce something. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. That's what we've done, and they don't like it.
Yeah.
So let's really give them the chance. Let's pilot something. So I've seen that be very successful, where you just trust people to to be grown up and give them the tools to do it. And actually what I think we're finding out, we're in the middle of it right now, is I think the solution that they're probably going to come up with is very similar to the one that we were thinking we were going to have. And it's kind of like, okay, now they've built it, maybe they'll buy into it more, and we'll see what happens. So I think it's that. And then I think the opportunity that I've seen, particularly in the leadership space, is, I remember challenging a leader that I worked with for a long time on doing something different in this whole emotional and social intelligence space. And she wanted data. And she's like, I want to see the data. What is this? And she wanted to do a business game. And I remember having this massive battle with her about, like, let's try something new. Let's just try something different. And I've heard this great feedback about this particular leadership intervention with horses and going to an equestrian center and doing it. Now, this was a very senior leader in a company, and they were pushing back. Yeah. But there was a bit about, I didn't have the data. I just had all this anecdotal evidence. I could see a couple of teams that had gone through this leadership intervention, and there was definitely data around engagement and where they were, but it wasn't, I couldn't say it was all this exactly, but they had done a lot of leadership development work. Anyway, we tried it, and she came out of it, and we had this amazing experience. And I think everyone, myself included, best leadership development I've ever done. And she said it after 40 plus years in the business. She's like, best leadership development. I'm glad you pushed me to do that. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I nearly gave up on that. And I nearly went for the traditional route because, I was like, why am I pushing this so hard? I don't even know if it's going to work. So I was kind of also not quite sure myself. But, I think that's where right now we as professionals go back to this point. I keep reiterating, David, challenge ourselves. I think in all of these things that we're doing right now to sort of go, why are we doing it? And could we do something different? And let's try it. So I think the pilot piece to me, is a key thing for an HR professional, because you'll get so much resistance if you try and do it at scale. We'll try it out, see what happens, and then try and land it globally.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.